my slips, my falls, my trials and tribulations, my heart, my balls, my somebody stop, somebody come and get me. Little did I know that the Lord was riding with me. The dark, the light, my heart, the fight, the wrong, the right is gone.
Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube family? This is Samuel Leggett representing Team JBS. I'm back here again for another movie review. This movie is called The Photograph. This was directed by Stella Meghie. She's most notable directing credits for Everything is Everything. Insecure, she directed I think one episode of that and also a couple episodes of Grownish. So of course she's gonna bring in Issa, who plays the role of May, and you got Lakeith, Stanfield, who I love this dude. Like, he is such a chameleon in the art form of how he actually acts. I love him. He plays the character role in this one. But the synopsis reads, a series of intertwining love stories set in the past and in the present. So I'm going to break this down differently than I normally do. I'm going to talk about the things that I liked, the things I felt like could have been done a little bit better, and the things I didn't like. So off the gate, I think that they did a really good job of the music selection. I think the music selection and the tempo, as well as a lot of the score, like just the normal natural score, was very upbeat, classical. The theme and the aesthetic of the locations between New Orleans and New York, whether or not you knew that or not, and I think it fit pretty well. A lot of the music choices I think fit that classical moment, because a lot of times it flashes back to May's mother and kind of telling her progressional story through these system of different letters that May is reading throughout most of the film. And I think that those work really well. As far as the cinematography, the way that it actually looked, I think it's a very beautifully shot film. Some scenes and certain camera angles I think were really interesting in the way that they actually designed them. Just kind of out of nowhere. It was just a really beautifully shot film. Another thing that I think that worked was, I am very happy they actually got him, is Rob Morgan. He plays the role most notable probably be Turk from the Netflix Marvel series. But this man, I just saw him in Just Mercy earlier last year or this year, and he doesn't disappoint in this one. Specifically the role that he plays in this film in connection with like May's mother's past and all the different things. Like, it's a very heartfelt, well acted performance in my personal opinion. They also got Courtney B. Vance in this one. They got like some really good actors. I think that Lil Rel Howery, I think that he is a gem in this one because his comedy moments are just so natural. Him, his wife, and his whole entire family, and their connection with Lakeith Stanfield's character, Mike, I think that worked. I think that was very natural feeling, and I actually gravitated towards it personally, more so than some of the moments that were even Issa and Lakeith's moments together. Because I felt like when they were kind of like put in a compromising situation where Mike and May are there with the family, it's comic gold on certain different levels. I think a lot of audience members are going to really like it. Another thing that I'll say that it's kind of like a push and pull, it's a kind of a pro and a con, is Issa and Lakeith, they can act very well. And I think that their scenes together, individually and collectively, they're doing specific things I think were done very well. But the con of that is, a lot of times, Issa Rae's character, whether or not you know it through the progression of the whole entire movie, she has a lot of things that she's battling internally and emotionally. And I think that Issa Rae does convey that very well when there are specific intimate moments and personal moments between her and Lakeith's character, Mike. And then Lakeith's character, Mike, is very much so kind of an extrovert and an introvert. Like, he's got a lot of different things that he's trying to do and accomplish and be. And you can tell if you listen very carefully when he's talking with his family, that he's going bouncing back and forth between relationships. Like, he doesn't know how to get anything right. He doesn't know how to keep his roots grounded. And I think that they play those individual roles very well The problem is that sometimes it doesn't translate well aesthetically. The reason why I say that, and this is pretty much one of the biggest negatives for me with this film, is that they don't pace the movie well enough for me, because most of the time I'm trying to watch and probe and try to see, like, all right, where did these characters come from? Like, how did they get to this place? Like, specifically the main character, who is Issa Rae's May, like, I wanted to see her progression growing up. Excuse me. I wanted to see kind of like the different things that make her tick, like her relationships and certain things and the people that she interacts with, like what she does. And they just don't really give me that. And because they don't give me that, I can't ground myself with gravitating towards the relationship that she's being pulled into or pulled out of. Or even her relationship with her mother. Like, I didn't get those interactional scenes. It's more so exposition and explaining to me, you know, how her upbringing wasn't as good as she wanted, or that she didn't have that loving mother that she needed. It shows like the sternness in the person that she is now, but it didn't show me any of those progressional moments. It's more so like when they do the flashbacks catered more so to the love story of May's parents, like her mom and her dad, and how progressively things worked and how the interactions happened, and like the love story is actually very beautiful. And I think that the actors that portrayed the younger versions do a really good job of conveying like the struggle of between the 70s and the 80s, specifically the mid 80s time frame, where you're trying to get out, you know, you're trying to make your mark, but at the same time you're stuck in the role that you're in, and how do you progressively make that work and also stay connected as a couple? Like, how do you push and pull, sacrifice, and at the same time be selfish so that you don't lose something? And I think that was the big moral dilemma that was throughout the whole entirety of the film, which I think that it was written pretty well. The problem was, again, like I said, is the actual pacing and the progression of that. And I'm not sure if that goes down to the directing or more so like the way that it was just shot, and maybe it was cut down, because there were specific key moments that I felt like, man, this would have been a really good time, as opposed to exposition or explaining, to really show me like, okay, this is the relationship situation that Mike went through that put him to this point. Okay, this is the reason why Mike wants to progress in his career of going potentially to a different country. Like, they needed those different moments for us to gravitate towards the character, and I didn't have those throughout the most entirety of the film. Now, as far as this movie, and I think that me and Lucas Moore, if you don't know who Lucas Moore is, he is a affiliate and contributor to Team JVS. He's going to be reviewing this movie as well. I want you to definitely go and check that out. He's also a part of Earth 2 Comicast. He's got a lot of great things that he's got going on. He's also doing a power discussion and reaction with Big Gold Belt. But me and him, we're going to have a discussion on the merits of this movie as to, is this a date movie, or is this a date-worthy movie? Like, should this movie be something you should consider to go take your date out or your significant other on? And I'll say, for me personally, I think that taking your significant other, I think that you're going to really enjoy it. I don't think that there's enough things that are kind of like bad or cons that would push them away from it, but I think that it could have been so much more juicier. It could have been much more richer and meatier, that I think progressively that it could have left a more lasting impression as opposed to a fleeting one for me personally. And I think that other moviegoers out there that really just want to see a decent love story, that really just want to see like the connection of love and the hardship, what it means to do that, and what legacy can do to benefit or deter your progression as a person. This movie pretty much has all those different things. A last negative that I do have is that, well, I mean, this is not a negative. Kevin Harrison Jr. is in this movie, and I did not recognize him. I think he's familiar. Like, he does a good job, and it's crazy because I did not recognize him. The whole entire time I was like, wait, what? And I recognized, I knew he looked familiar, but it was because of the stubble and the hair. Like, I just did not recognize him. But he kind of plays like an understudy to Lakeith Stanfield's Michael. And it kind of really underutilize him, in my personal opinion. But it wasn't really the negative detracting I was going to say. The biggest thing about this, to me, that is the biggest negative, is that there is no semblance of time. What I mean by that is, it could be a flashback, and you're seeing like things happen at this specific time, but you don't know how much time has lapsed when the next scene progresses. You see different hair movements and different hair changes, but for the entirety of the movie, I didn't know what was 2 months, what was a year, what was days. And that messed up my thoughts on a lot of this, because there was a question that was asked by Issa Rae to Michael about like honesty and such, and I was like, if I'm going off of what my perception is, that you've only known this person for less than a month, then he's not entitled to tell you these specific things necessarily. Or I don't even know how long you guys have been together, or are you together? And it's kind of like, that goes back to the meat that these characters individually and collectively needed for us to really latch onto them, to make this more fulfilling. And I guess time was one of the biggest things that was my real nitpick, that there was no real understanding of time. And I think that it should have been just subtle things like, okay, this is 2 months later, or some kind of dialogue that shows like moments of time. But they do a really good job when it comes to Issa Rae reading the letters and the transitional moments, and it going to this emotional moment that, man, like, it looks like history's about to repeat itself kind of thing. You're kind of worried about that. So again, there are certain moments that I really liked about this, and I think that it's not going to detract people that do want to just take their significant other to see a decent romantic film. But as a film as a whole, I think it could have been so much better. But sadly, it kind of just left a little flat for me personally. So I'll rest this at a 6.5 out of 10. I definitely think you should go and check it out yourself. Take your significant other. I think it would be a good Valentine's Day film. There are certain moments that are a little sensual in nature, some explicit stuff, not any necessary nudity, but it's implied. There's a little bit of language, so be careful with that. But all in all, I think that you'll have a decent time with this film. But let me know what your thoughts are. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell button, and stay tuned for me and Lucas Moore's dissection on whether or not this is a date-worthy film. Keep it locked. JBS. We ain't gonna stop. Have a blessed one, guys. Peace.